John, I remember when I was finally beginning to appreciate pantheism as a legitimate possibility to explain reality, when suddenly this concept of panentheism emerged, where now the universe was not just God, but God was bigger than the universe, and the universe was in God, but God exceeded that. Help me, as you've helped me so many times in the past, understanding everything from cosmology to multiple universes in the philosophy to distinguish between pantheism and panentheism and the significance of that difference.
Well, you want, in some way, when you call yourself a pantheist, to think of God as more than just the universe, because otherwise why use the word God and why not just talk about the universe? You're going to say, when you're a pantheist, that the structure of the universe is inside a divine mind, and that the universe is unified in the way in which minds were traditionally thought of as unified. The different parts of the universe then are incapable of existing in isolation from each other. If you're a panentheist, you think that in addition to carrying the structure of the universe, the divine mind is able to evaluate the parts of the universe. It knows a lot of ethics. It also knows a lot of mathematics. It knows possibly the structures of all possible universes. There's all this additional knowledge which is present in God.
That you wouldn't have in just pure, simple pantheism.
Which pure, simple pantheism, which simply says the universe is unified, the universe is mental, the universe is good. If you can find pantheists who just believe that, then you can say they're different from panentheists. But you'll find that most respectable pantheists are also panentheists, because they would think that it's altogether too limiting to God to say that God's knowledge is only of the pattern of the universe. That God would, for example, know about all the physics of a symphony orchestra in performance, but in no way enjoy the music, not even realize music was going on. It would be possible to be a perfect physicist and understand what was going on in the concert hall, but not realize that it's a case of music. Every pantheist who I'd be wanting to take seriously has to be some sort of panentheist.
You're making a distinction between the universe being inside of God or the divine mind, and the definitional that God and the universe are the same thing, which is more the standard pantheism. That seems like a very fundamental difference between God being the universe being God, or versus the universe being inside the divine mind.
Well, one way we could give a bit more substance to this difference is to say that even somebody like Spinoza, who developed a lot of strands which were previously there in Jewish thought, he thought of God as loving individual human beings. But if you just have God as the universe, its patterns develop in a certain way, but there's no loving going on there. So there will be a part of the universal mind which is directed towards individual human beings and loving them, and also presumably directed towards certain human beings and not approving of what they do. That will be part of Spinoza's pantheism, and it makes him a panentheist.
And now, is this part of God that is outside, that is able to love, judge, know music? Is that a consciousness? Is it an awareness? Is it like a person, or something totally different?
Well, if we stick to how Spinoza develops it, you have there a person, it seems. There would be an aspect of God which is personal and which judges and which loves and so on, and which disapproves of certain people. Yeah. Why not say that this is a person?
Do you go with that in your view, which I've been known to be somewhat strong in your opinions, as I've known you over the years? Do you follow that? Do you have a?
I strongly believe that my opinions are at least defensible. I don't strongly believe that they're correct. Yes, in the system of panentheism, which I myself would subscribe to, there would be this aspect of God as well, a loving aspect. And this is one thing which makes me think that one has some hope of immortality, because a loving God would not just let you go at your death and that's the end of you. Spinoza's God seems to love people retrospectively. Once they're dead, he admires how they were when they were alive. I think we can look forward to more than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's as Woody Allen said, I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve immortality by not dying.
Precisely. Spinoza would say that Woody Allen had got it wrong. I'd say Woody Allen has got it right.
Your view is that underlying your panentheism is the power of value as a primordial force. The critique of that is that nowhere else do we find such a force with creative or generative powers. And the only forces we find are in the physical world, physical causation, or, as some would say, personal causation. And the latter is disputed, of course. But anything like value, there's no example, no prototype whatsoever to show it having power.
I think you're right. I think that view is right. If it means that we have no strong evidence of value having power. I don't think we have any strong evidence that anything is ever better than anything else. I think this is a theoretical idea, which I take seriously. And if you didn't take it seriously, I'd be very worried about you. You wouldn't be my friend any longer. But I don't think we have any proof here. But if you say we have no evidence that value has done anything good, I say, what about the universe? Why do we have a universe, not a blank? Why is there all this order in the universe when it could have been a chaos? Why does the universe seem especially hospitable to life? These are things which are typically given to the credit of a God who puts value into effect. And when people who believe that a God puts value into effect in these three ways turn to me and say, you have no evidence at all that value is put into effect by itself, I'm just flabbergasted. It seems to me that they're in the same boat as me. They're in the same boat, particularly with respect to the problem of evil. Why are there so many bad things happening in the world? Their standard view is that goods conflict with one another and overrule one another. The person who believes that value is itself creative can have precisely that same view and can say that this is what explains why there's so many disasters and so on. This is what explains why typically, in order to be sure that things are going to go well in the world, we'll have to intervene and make them go well. The other side is in precisely the same boat as I am. Both boats are boats with no real evidence that they've got the truth, but they've got nice, simple theories.
And so why do you skew so strongly to value and not to a personal, self-existing God?
I think that if you have as your basic belief that underneath the universe there is a God who just happens to exist, just happens to know everything, just happens to have enormous power, just happens to be tremendously good, I keep on saying, just happens, just happens, just happens. If, though, you bring in the idea of goodness as behind God's reality, which is a fairly traditional view. The fairly traditional view is that God doesn't just happen to exist. God exists because God's existence is good. Then you are pushed towards a view that God is all reality. At least I think you are.